Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode here of Outdoor Hospitality Weekly. We're here with Steve Turk, who we're super excited to chat with. Steve's got a lot of awesome stuff going on. He's a hospitality podcaster himself and an entrepreneur that has a lot of exciting different things coming up. So why don't you jump in and Steve and just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, Matt, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here with you. I guess the 30-second download is I've been in hospitality my entire career, my entire adult life, we'll say, and even maybe younger. My dad was an attorney from some really successful resorts down here in Miami Beach, so I got to like run around them as a little kid and was like king of the world, and that always stuck in my mind. And so as I was studying to become a lawyer, I realized this is not what I want to do. I don't want to do what my dad does, and told him that, and he's like, "Hey, man, do what you love. You love hospitality, go figure that out." And I did. So right out of Florida State University, got started in all the resorts here in Miami Beach and just worked my way up. I never wanted to leave, so I just kind of worked my way up to some of the best resorts here in the city, and always wanted to become that general manager of an iconic Miami Beach resort, and wrote that down every single day and was one step away. I was the acting hotel manager for the Lowe's Miami Beach Hotel, coming up through food and beverage, and pandemic came, and like a lot of people, was like, I don't know if I really want to do this anymore. And during that time, I was using social media all the time, LinkedIn especially. If you look back, I was really writing to myself to motivate myself. But people started to like it. I started getting a lot of followers on there, and I started giving out advice, and people started to call me for actual paid advice. They're like, hey, we'll pay you if you can help me fix this. And that kind of clicked to where I was like, all right, there's a couple things I want to do, and consulting will be one of them. Gets me out of the day to day, and I can start building up a hospitality brand that I wanted to build. And that's how it started. So in 2021, I gave 6 months notice to my hotel and said, you got 6 months to replace me.
Wow.
And jumped out into entrepreneurship for the second time, but this time with a really good plan of what I like doing. So consulting, have a hospitality management company called Tangy Management where we focused on short-term rentals, and now that's evolving into boutique hotels and glamping, which we'll talk a little bit about. And then I knew I needed a hook to get some intros and meetings because no one wants to talk to a vendor. But if I invite them on a podcast, they'll talk to me on the podcast versus having a meeting with me. And that's how the podcast started and turned into this awesome
You are speaking
ride.
my language. I love
So that's
it.
really kind of the things I got going on are those things. In addition, if you're watching on video, I have a coffee brand that's over my shoulder because we needed coffee for our vacation rentals, and that blew up too. So a lot of fun things going on.
I love it. You said a few things that really resonated with me. One, the writing to yourself online. That was complete same experience for me.
I just did it today.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And then the the writing on yourself to yourself online, and then the consulting. People start to like it. People start to engage, ask you questions, reach out.
Yep.
It's the way of the world now. Putting yourself out there and creating content and telling your story. It's amazing.
Yeah, and people want to connect with you. The people want to connect with somebody versus a company, which is different than like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's the days of buying from a corporate conglomerate are over. People want to buy from people that they feel like they know and like. So 100%. So you've got the Hospitality Mentor is a podcast, and you just released a book, right?
Yeah, so the Hospitality Mentor, I'd say, is the media company now. So it started as a podcast just to get leads, but then all of a sudden, one night I was having a glass of wine. I was like, what if I just write to all these CEOs of all these major hotel companies? So, a glass of wine with confidence in there. I wrote to all of them, and they all started coming on. So then all of a sudden, PR directors started to reach out to me like, hey, can we get our clients on? That turned into doing video. And then I started going to actual hotels and telling stories on video as well. And then I had all these awesome pieces of stories that are in the podcast, but sometimes you listen to them and they just disappear. And, I started thinking like, I can do something with this. There's something here. And I always ask the same two questions. It's, what was your first job in hospitality? And then what advice would you give to your younger self if you were starting out today? And I had so much good advice in just that piece.
Sure.
That I was like, all right, we're going to build a book. And that's where I've got it here. It's Hospitality Unlocked, available on Amazon and paperback, hardcover, and Kindle. And it's really centered around that. So we found the top 75 guests that were on the podcast, which was hard because we've done over 150 episodes.
Wow.
And we just broke it down into like the C-suite, so all the CEOs, COOs that we interviewed, founders, chefs, restaurateurs, and then the executives. So that's a mix of like cruise ship and
Wow.
hotel and vacation rental, all these cool people that we interviewed. So it's all their stories, then the game plan of how to get to where they were, and then a place for you like to really engage and reflect. So it asks you some questions to make you think. So if you're like journaling, it'll prompt you on some stuff, but it has a little bit of something for everybody in there. It's really just made to flip through, get motivated. I wrote it for myself from where I was younger, and I was lost and stressed out as a young manager, not knowing what to do. That's who I was envisioning as I was writing that.
Amazing. Amazing. I'm looking forward to reading it myself. So,
Yeah, there's some
su-
people in there you probably know for sure. For
definitely
sure.
love it. Love it. Awesome. So I had reached out to you. I saw you posting about a glamping project in South Florida. Why don't you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that?
So I'm going to give you as much details I can do without giving away too much because we are the first to get approvals. And I say we, as
Amazing.
I've been working on this now for like a year and a half. And it was really hard because, zoning and planning down here in Miami-Dade County don't understand what are you talking about? What is glamping? What is this? But we got lucky that there was an agro-tourism bill that passed. And so really the overall theme of this is we have a tropical fruit farm here in Miami-Dade County that's 25 acres,
Wow.
and learning that, these farmers are struggling. And so in talking to the farmer, I was like, look, I know you don't want to sell your land, but what if we set up something where we pay you a rent, a percentage of nightly rent goes to the farmer. Guests will come to the farm, learn about what you're doing here on this farm while they're out in nature, and they get to reconnect. So they'll be able to learn about the farm, be in nature, reconnect with themselves, have some experiences that they can then go home with. And you're 20 minutes from the Keys, 10 minutes from the Everglades, and Miami is in the backyard. So it's not a 2 hour drive like a lot of these places are. So that's
Sure.
where I feel like I've got a home run that we're building up now. And so we just got our approvals from the zoning and planning divisions here, and now we're starting to build. So we're putting together a team of people, and I wish I could announce it on your show, Matt. I wish I could do it, but we're still
We'll get you back.
negotiating with some players that in the industry that I think we're all going to team up on this one. Because originally I was like, oh, I'm going to do it myself, but then I was like, how can we make this even better because of the location? So we got some industry players that are going to be a part of it, and I'm just excited because at first it was like, all right, it's going to be canvas tents, and then I leaned away from that. It's going to be actually more structures that are hard-sided, that are very
Nice.
unique in nature. So no hate against like the mirrored cabins and some others that are
Right.
very generic. These are unique looking that will fit the vibe that we're looking for. And we're looking to probably do about 15 units on that 25 acres to start. So that's
Love
where
it.
we're at.
That's amazing. So I've kind of gone through the same process too of you look at the price of the glamping tents, the canvas tents, it's enticing because it's usually cheaper
Yes.
than a hard walled unit. But what always stopped me from just going crazy and spending $1 million on glamping tents was weather, longevity questions about them. I've stayed at some resorts, glamping resorts with, you know, experiences that were underwhelming to say the least with
Yep.
glamping tents. I've always kind of just had not so great taste in my mouth. The other thing that's so overwhelming in this space, and I want to hear from you about this too, if you experience the same thing, but there are just so many manufacturers, and it's with the buzz around the industry over the last few years, the pandemic, everything. It seems like the number of manufacturers in the space just
Yes. Blew up.
10x, 100x, and it's so hard to just sift through all that. You've got Timu and Alibaba and all the even the US based. I mean, it's hard to tell what's quality. It's hard to tell who's reputable. There's manufacturers, then there's manufacturers reps, then there's wholesalers, and they all kind of represent themselves as manufacturers. It's tough. Is that the experience that you had?
Yeah, I mean, when you first start looking, you're just like, I don't know. I don't like. I'm you like what I keep telling people I work with is like, you give me 1,000 room hotel, I know how to run that,
Yeah.
right? Like I could run it with not my eyes closed, but I can run it for sure.
Yeah.
You tell me I got to build this site with pieces that I've never used, I've never slept in. There's no places for me to check them out other than like some random spots, maybe in Europe or in like
Right.
Asia. Like it makes it hard because a lot of it is you're taking people's word on it. So I think I've found people now, and I'm excited to work with them because they've been through it already, and so
Yeah.
they've straight like this didn't work. Like I was set with a certain like a harder canvas tent. Like Steve, we had a hailstorm, it tore through it. You don't want to put people at risk for this. You're in Miami. There's storms that could have mold. You know what? You're right. I need something year round. I can depend on AC, flushable toilet that we're going to work on, and we found something that we'll be the first to use in the U.S., which makes
Wow.
it interesting to me because it's a modular unit but doesn't look that way. Um, and I need that, right? I think like any project, everything's starting to look the same. Like I started looking around, I'm like, man, all these things are starting to look very similar. Once you have that, you can't really charge premium for some of these things. So I need to build a moat around what I'm doing just to give myself a little bit of lead time
Yeah.
before competitors take on. And can
Nice.
I sign some exclusivity for these units for certain zones for a certain amount of time? So those are the conversations we have just to try to think ahead already versus like, all right, let me just get something up. And originally that's what it
Right.
was because I thought it was going to take me a month. I had this a year and a half ago. I remember telling my partner at Tangy, which is our hospitality management company,
Yeah.
like, yeah, man, I got the land already. We got the farm. The farmer wants to go. We're just going to set it up. And it just
Yeah.
was not that. So,
Right. Yeah.
I'm lucky in a sense where, my wife is an attorney, a fantastic one. My dad is one. I have access to a law firm with a family and friend rate,
Nice.
right? For a land use attorney. But if it wasn't for that land use attorney, I wouldn't have got through because that person kept fighting for us all the way through.
Battle. Battle. I think it's a really awesome story to for you to share and to talk about because I think there is a lot of sensationalism kind of in the glamping space. We see companies like Tenter was the face of glamping, and everybody had a glamping
Site.
tent in their backyard now, and then they totally collapsed because people don't really understand what it takes. Hospitality business is hard.
Yeah.
Development is hard. People have discerning taste and expectations, and you got to meet the standards and put out a really good product and great guest experience, which I think sometimes is lost on people. So that's really awesome. You think what you're 12, 24 months out from
I said
opening
the
or
goal for this is open up before the end of the year, is to have our first one,
nice,
someone in there by December 31st of this year. Right, that
amazing.
is the goal. I'm pushing our team to that. Maybe that is a stretch goal, but I've already done a year and a half of work, and I'm like, I want this
Yeah,
to open now. So I'm
yeah,
pushing everybody towards that. But we're finalizing all of our agreements right now. But I think we've got the right team. But it really comes
amazing.
down to like knowing the numbers. I think a lot of people just get into it. I'm lucky enough where I come from that corporate hospitality world where you have P&Ls and pro formas and you have to know those things. And I
Yeah,
know that you do that because you buy places. But there's a lot of people that just go on gut feeling, which is good. But I like to
right.
run it and saying, all right, worst case scenario, I'm going to get this rate at this occupancy. If everything went terrible, that's what I always ask my team. Why would this fail? That's my first question. We
Right.
go through everything. All right, we can cover all those things and then run those numbers. And man, after thinking worst case, I think we're in great shape to get started.
Amazing. I'm rooting for you, and I'm excited to stay tuned and see it all happen. So
Yeah, we'll be sharing live. Right? I'll be sharing a lot as we build out. Like
I love that.
I
We're
won't
doing the same
be
thing with one
behind the
of our
curtain.
projects.
If you know me, everyone, if you know me now, I like to share things, what's
Yep.
happening, good and bad. And I've been sharing the journey now for about a year of just like, I can't, no one's excited about zoning meetings,
Yeah.
but that's what's been going on. And
A small passionate crowd.
yeah, but that's what's been going on, right? And you have to have the grit and the fortitude to go forward because we were greeted with the very first meeting like, this is an absolute no until you can prove why it's a yes. That was the quote that we
Yeah.
received. I was like, okay.
I think you're onto something, and you were probably advised well with the flush toilets. See a lot of people with off-grid developments, and they say, "Oh, we'll do a composting toilet, or we'll do a dry flush toilet, or whatever." And it's like, yeah, you might have to jump through some hoops to get some permanent septic, but go ahead and jump through those too.
Yeah, those are the hoops right now. It's even still now. It's like, all right, where is it going to be? This is agricultural land. We don't want that gray water leaching into the food
Right.
and the soil and the stuff that's around here. So we're still dealing with that now. But
Yeah.
it's amazing. I have friends that build these giant skyscrapers that are throughout Miami popping up. There's like, if I look out my window, there's 24 cranes going up. And one of the guys is like, Steve, it's easier for me to build this than it is for you to build what you're building.
Right. It's so funny. Like, I mean, I grew up in we had septic in our house, but like I meet a lot of people that septic is such a foreign concept to them because they're from the city.
And everything connects.
And they just, right, it's sewer. They don't even think about it. You flush the toilet and it goes away, and I don't have to think about it.
Yep.
But a lot goes into it. A lot goes into it. Keeps engineers in business and contractors in business. You made an interesting comment I want to go back to when you were talking about Tangy Management. You had mentioned that you were focused on short-term rentals and have shifted focus a bit to boutique hotels. Tell us about that journey, how that evolved, what went into kind of that pivot, I guess if you would call it a pivot.
I mean, for us, we see short-term rentals. We've been in it since 2016, right? And it spiked, I think, pandemic time. Everyone was making money. Everyone jumped into it. Everyone saw the TikTokers saying, the arbitrage model where you lease something and flip it into another rent. And then a lot of companies went out of business in that time. We've always done management where we take a percentage and manage it for other people's places. So we don't own any of them until this past year we started to open and buy some of our own places. But we saw some of the boutique hotels, they're struggling. And some of these units are actually like vacation rentals. Like they do have a kitchenette. They do have the setup to be long-term. So we started working with one called Casa Faina, which is like the sister property of an ultra luxury hotel here in Miami Beach. It just happens to be across the street. And we said, look, let's start working together. We'll get you more eyeballs on your property. We'll manage that whole thing for you. We'll manage the revenue for there. We'll give you the whole comp sets that you don't get to see since we have all the, like the data for that side of the world.
Yeah.
And so they were all about it because it's just a value add for them. And now we're starting to see that more and more with other boutique hotels is that it's expensive to run it. And so if we can make you more efficient, but still get you all the things that you need for service, it's great. So our team comes in just like it would any other hotel. We just happen to be off site. So we'll answer your messages, but we respond the same day. So if someone needs towels or needs something, we're there.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to have your staff on hand, and we're able to take care of it for you. So something I didn't share with you earlier was from 2014 to 2018, I had a staffing company, which I hated, by the way. I sold it. I got very lucky. I'm grateful for the company that bought it, but it was 1,300 employees.
Wow.
Everyone across hotels, across the city. So we know the efficiencies that you can have by having staff mobile and being able to use in many areas. So for me, it makes sense. And so as you start talking to boutique hotels that maybe can't afford all these full-time people, it's like, give it to us and we'll take care of it for you. And so that's really what's starting to happen as we're talking to more and more properties.
That's incredible. I mean, that's been one of my number one pain points as a campground operator, an RV park operator, especially you're mostly in rural areas.
Yeah.
It's hard to find people. Once you find good people, you got to hold on to them. And
I don't know how you do it. Like you got to give them like a place to live. They're so far out from places. Like for me, I'm lucky that most of our properties are in a core area of the city and a resort place where people live. But we've now started to do more and more properties that are a little bit more outside. Like, all right, it's a little bit harder. Maybe we don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I meet operators all the time that are, shipping people in for the weekend, putting them up in a room.
We see it in the Florida Keys down here. The Florida Keys, they bus people in.
Yeah.
Because it's too expensive to live anywhere down there. And so they're taking an hour and a half bus ride each way just to go to work, which is really challenging.
Fascinating. Really interesting stuff. So it sounds like you're probably on with Tangy Management on the boutique hotels. Is that mostly mom and pop owners that you're working with?
Yes. I mean, the majority of our business still is the single family homes in legally zoned areas. So we have our sweet spot is 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a pool is what we like doing. Like we dabble in Like we have some multifamilies that are like one bedrooms and studios, but we just found it's not worth the headache unless you have hundreds of them. Then you're a hotel, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
you're a
yeah.
hotel. So we found that we like those single family, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, pool, unique places. If it's not that, or something that's ultra close to very central tourist destinations, we'll work with. But the ones that have those things that I just told you, print money if you're in the right
Yeah,
space. It's
right.
it's a, like I have some people that I'm very friendly with, and they have great companies, but they focus on that studio 1 bedroom business, and it's just a headache when you're selling rooms at $90 a night versus when we can sell them at 1,000, right? And it's just like,
I hear you.
mm-hmm.
You got to find out what works, what's efficient.
It's way
Smart.
easier to do that. Like it's hard for
Yeah,
what we do because we have to be very clear on how we organize our teams and the zones that we give them in the city and how we schedule people, right? But we figured out we only hire hotel people on our team,
wow. I love that. I love that. So you're taking kind of the institutional,
and they love it.
yeah, the
Yeah.
approach, applying it in a slightly different niche, but where a lot of the same stuff applies and probably gaining a lot of efficiency.
Yeah, our
That's
entire
awesome.
team is hotel background. So that's one of our core values. If you want to join the team, you have to have a hotel background.
Incredible. I love that. I love that. So you've got the glamping project, you've got the new book, you've got the coffee brand. I want to talk about the coffee
Yeah.
brand. Really cool. I'm a coffee snob myself. I'm gonna have to try some of yours. When did you start the coffee brand?
So the coffee started as an idea back in 2020. So during the pandemic, while I was still at the hotel, I
Yeah.
was a director of food and beverage, so running the restaurants and banquets and all that. It was we had a in Biscayne Bay. All of a sudden, all the fish started dying. It was like a million fish started dying. It was too much algae in the water, and they started like
Wow.
bringing in oxygen pumps across the bay to like re-oxygenate the water, which was
Wow.
crazy. I'm like, man, what is happening? We got a pandemic going on. We got fish dying in the bay. Like,
The end of the world.
it's like everything's collapsing. And I have a view of the bay where I live. And the next morning, I was having coffee with my kids. And my daughter, who was 4 at the time, was like, "What's happening? We have to try to help." And I was like, "You're right, but I don't know how to." And I was sipping coffee, and I was like, "You know what? I wanted to have my own coffee brand. We're going to create this brand called Biscayne Coffee, and 10% of sales, of top line sales, will go and be donated to the Biscayne Bay Foundation. And now we donate to Waterkeeper to help save the bay." So
Incredible.
I'm always big into giving back as part of the brand and part of the story. But the coffee had to be good because I, as a former director of food and beverage, I couldn't have crappy coffee. So we found the right roasting partner, teamed up, found the right beans. They promised to roast it for me. They bag it for me, and now we have the best quality. So we have 3 SKUs, and now we're working with you know a lot of different places to get the coffee into. So we just donated the most we've ever donated now this past
Wow.
quarter. So it's just
Amazing.
exciting. I love doing it, and plus
Are
it's
you a
now in all of our vacation rentals as well too.
nice? I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Vertically integrated.
Yeah, so guests are
Um,
buying it because they get to try it, and then when they go home, they get a discount to buy some more, and
incredible.
they drink it thinking about the vacation that they were on. Hopefully, that
Yeah.
went well in that unit. So I
Love it.
get a lot of new people tasting it all the time, and we just sell it directly to them.
Nice. Are you a picky coffee drinker yourself?
Yes,
What was
ultra
that
picky.
process like to
It was fun. It was fun because you get to taste all different kind of beans and roast levels, and I'll leave it like a lot of people who drink Starbucks are used to that taste where it's bitter and you have to add sugar and all these things to the coffee. But what they don't realize is that the reason it is bitter is because they're getting beans from all over the place and they have to burn them so that it all tastes the same. And that's why you have this bitter taste. So when you
Yeah.
drink really good coffee, it should taste good without anything. It's almost like a really dark tea if you're drinking great coffee and something that
Yeah.
has great taste. So even if it starts getting, that cool off when it gets like lukewarm and things like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
gross.
Right, right.
It should still taste good. And that's what this coffee is
Yeah.
too. So,
Nice.
and
I love it.
we're roast to order, so we don't do anything and hold it. So as soon as somebody orders, whether it's, we work with a retirement community, which is my biggest client of all things.
Amazing.
And all the retirees drink coffee every day from Biscayne Coffee. They order, I don't know, 80 pounds a month of coffee, which is amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah, we roast everything to order. Nothing's pre-made.
Nice.
So you can check it out at
Love it.
biscaynecoffee.com. If you guys want 10% off, you can put in mentor as the keyword.
Nice. Do you have a good espresso roast or roast for?
Absolutely. We got a
Nice.
single origin Colombian coffee. Hopefully the tariffs don't go up. We'll see on that one. But right now, that's our great espresso blend that I always
Nice.
recommend.
I love it. I'm an espresso guy, so I'll check that out. Cool. All right. Well, we usually try to keep these to 30 minutes or
Yeah,
so. We're
absolutely.
coming up a little bit. Um, I guess what's anything on your mind that we haven't shared with the
Yeah.
listeners
I
today?
mean, for us and for me, I would say I really put in a lot of work and effort into the book Hospitality Unlocked. It took me about a year to make. And I truly think that if you're in hospitality, whether you're starting out or you're at the top levels, this was really made for anyone in the industry to digest something quickly. And you have so many high achievers in there that are giving this advice that when you ask someone the advice they would give to the younger selves, it's they think of their entire career and all the mistakes they made and things that they would do differently. So I think it's something worth checking out. For the price of a two coffees at Starbucks, you get all this knowledge wrapped up in one. And really, that's what I wanted to share today. And let me know if you get it, if it helps you. I would love to share with you more online. I'm active on LinkedIn, so if you want to connect there, make sure to connect with me there, Steve Turk. And I'm happy to chat with you anytime. So
Amazing.
that's what
Yeah.
I got for the listeners.
Amazing. I appreciate it, Steve. I'm super excited to dig into it myself. I come from a commercial real estate background, and I had some hospitality experience. Worked in restaurants in college, and but kind of fell into the space professionally. I feel like I've been looking for these types of resources to brush up and kind of learn the
Yep.
lingo, so to speak. And you know, I just love those types of resources. I'll certainly dig in and probably read it in a day. And
Yeah, it's easy. It's
just
easy to flip through. Like originally it was like it'd be 52 people, so like one story per week. I thought 75 sounded cooler. And
yeah,
actually,
yeah,
there's 76 people in there. I kept one
yeah.
in there extra, but we made it 75.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, yeah, really appreciate the time. Enjoyed the conversation. Super excited for all the awesome stuff you got going on, and we'll definitely stay tuned and be rooting for you along the way.
Yeah, Matt, I appreciate you having me on. And again, I'm here for any of you that want to connect.
Awesome. Thanks again, Steve.